NFL schedules are out, and we already knew who the Chiefs would play in the 2021 season. Now we know the dates and times. And that's our topic today on SportsBeat KC, the Kansas City Star's daily sports podcast. It's Thursday, May 13th, and I'm Blair Kirchhoff. Beat writers Herbie Teope and Sam McDowell are here to break down the schedule. And I think some NFL teams look at their schedules to find opportunities of success. You know, maybe a stretch of games against non-playoff teams from last year, something like that. The Chiefs don't need to do that. You know, there's some places like the first two games against the Browns and the Ravens that are against teams that were in the playoffs last season. But when you consider the Chiefs are playing a first-place schedule for the fifth straight season, and they've made the playoffs in all the previous years, including the last two Super Bowls, you tend to look at a schedule a little differently. For instance, last year, did anyone believe that the Chiefs were going to win rather convincingly at Buffalo and Baltimore and then struggle at home against Carolina and Atlanta? After a break, we changed topics and discussed the Indianapolis Colts signing of Eric Fisher and former Chiefs great Tamba Hali signing a one-year deal to retire as a Kansas City Chief. So, lots to talk about. Let's get started with Herbie Teope and Sam McDowell. Well, Herbie Teope's favorite day of the year just passed. NFL schedule release day. I know, Herbie, you gear up for this. It's like your Super Bowl, isn't it? But I know how you feel about it, and I'm with you. The NFL has turned this into an extravaganza, and I don't blame the NFL. Look, they're trying to, they're the masters at creating interest in non-events, and we know every team the Chiefs are playing. We know they're playing them home or road, but they somehow have created suspense and drama for a schedule release day. But for you and Sam, it's an all-day thing. You got to pay attention in case some news leaks out during the day.
Yeah, and it's you're right about the extravaganza. I mean, like, they didn't start televising this until their first show was 2010, and then it was a 2-hour extravaganza, and now it's 3 to 4 hours long, and it's a little bit over the top to me. Just release the schedule. The good old days, Blair, you remember this? It was an email. You got the email, and then you went from there. But now I don't get what the suspense is. I don't know what their rating is going to look like, because I know once the schedule comes out, I don't turn in to watch the show. We got deadlines to meet. But the NFL, you're right. They have figured out a way to continue to draw interest. I mean, I don't even know if the fans watch the show. Fans just want to know the date so they can lock down their travel. But it is what it is.
Yeah, we knew early in the morning that CBS announced it, right? The week one game. So you knew early in the morning on Wednesday that the Browns were the Chiefs' first opponent, the opening game opponent. And then it's during the day you learned, I guess I found out who was the Washington football team leaked their schedule. So you found out when they were playing Washington. And finally, by the evening, you got all the information. There are some differences this year, right? There's a 17th game, and we found out that the Packers are the Week 9 opponent. The game's at Arrowhead. I was a little surprised that one wasn't on prime time. Sam, what were your sort of surface schedule observations with the news yesterday?
Well, I think the NFL should actually take it a step further based on the react. Like, I agree that I don't like the way that it's done, but the fans love it. And if they love it, I told Herbie yesterday they should release a game like every 30 minutes.
No.
The week 2 slate comes out at 8. The week 3 comes out at 8:30. I mean, just go all in and release this thing like it's some sort of you see this with music these days where there's these surprise drops like at midnight or something like that. I think the NFL should just fully embrace it, just go all in on it. Much to the detriment of those of us who cover it, but I still think embrace it.
Here's the crazy thing. They treat this schedule like you need a Jason Bourne, like level 5 security clearance to see the games and the times. And yet here are all the leaks. under the threat of being fired, people still freaking put it out there, and it's insane. Look, maybe Sam is on to something. But don't forget, this is the same sports organization that now charges fans at the NFL Combine to watch people do bench pressing. So maybe Sam is on to something here. We're not that far off where we're going to have 17 days of the NFL schedule release. One a day. You never know.
I actually just on the spot came up with something. You could actually put a fan in the Roger Goodell chair and announce that fan gets to announce, one game, just make it an all-day TV event.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. It is. It's become programming, right? It's a couple days worth of programming for the NFL Network or for the ESPN. It's a lot of content for the websites. One good thing that's come out of it over the last few years, and I enjoy. And before we started recording, I was watching a few of these, the schedule release videos that the teams put out.
Yeah, some are really good.
Really good, clever. The Chiefs did one this year with Andy Reid that you can find on kansascity.com. That's kind of fun. They did two, actually, one with Andy Reid and one with Dante Hall. I looked at ones by the Chargers, the Cowboys. Of course, the Cowboys featured Jerry Jones, just as every Cowboys production does. The Falcons, a lot of Patriots, a lot of them put out schedule videos and their schedule release videos, and those are fun. They just are clever, and maybe we'll link to one or two of them in the show notes here. So what about the schedule itself? 17 games. One thing that struck me about it, God, it's going to be a long season, man. For the season to begin on September 12th and end January 9th, it's just one extra week, but it seemed long to me when I saw the games laid out with 17 games and the bye. And Herbie, I've got a question for you. Sam, you got the preseason games, right? So we know that the last preseason game is going to be on August 27th. It's a home game against the Vikings. The regular season doesn't start until September 12th. It occurs to me there's a little more extra time in there than the usual Thursday to, Sunday, Thursday to the following Sunday schedule that we normally have. What's the explanation for that?
You stumped me, Blair, because I don't know the explanation for that.
Whenever they added the 17th game, they did not want to start the season earlier, and they did not want to start preseason later. So basically, the bye week had to just fall where the fourth preseason game used to be. It's just been erased from every team's schedule.
Well, it might have had something to do with Labor Day, too, because I'm not quite sure where Labor Day falls, but they never want to do games over Labor Day weekend. So it's always like the week after Labor Day or days after Labor Day is when they'll start the Thursday night rollout and then into the regular season.
Yeah, I mean, in the past, it's been last preseason game on a Thursday, and then basically the final cuts come by what is it, Saturday, Sunday. I forgot exactly what day it is when the roster has to be down to to 53, and then you play that the first game's that week. Well, now there's just additional time in there between the last preseason game and the opener. So I found that to be interesting. And of course, there's only three preseason games this year. With the Chiefs playing 9 home regular season games, they only get 1 home preseason game, and that's against the Vikings on August 27th. The other thing, a couple other things that I jotted down when I was reading about this, as the schedule release. They've got 5 primetime games, right? 3 of them are on the road. There's a stretch in their schedule where they play 3 straight at home. It's around the bye, right? They've got the Cowboys, the bye, and then home games against the Broncos and like Vegas. And then they end the year with 3 out of 4 on the road. In that last game on January 9th at Denver, I can't imagine a colder place on the planet Earth than Denver on January 9th, but there it is. Did you guys see anything on the schedule that that made you kind of glance twice at?
Well, I know The only thing Sam and I were on the same wavelength because once the schedule came out, he immediately texted me, Las Vegas, November the 14th. Outside of the Vegas trip, to me, the things that jump out on the schedule, the first two games, the Browns for the season opener and then the Ravens, black and blue type games, physical type games. You catch a break between they faced the Chargers and the Eagles in week 3 and week 4, two teams on the rebuild with first-year coaches. But then you get the Bills, you get Washington, you get the Titans. So 5 of their first 7 games, playoff teams, and they're all physical. And so Patrick Mahomes is 10-0 for the month of September. They're going to need that magic to jumpstart the Chiefs. The Chiefs traditionally start fast under Mahomes, but they're definitely going to want to start fast this time.
Yeah, I think what stood out to me was just the quality of opponents, especially home opponents. Last year, the Chiefs at this time, when because the Vegas still releases all the lines for the games way ahead of time, and when they did that before the season, the Chiefs were favored by at least 10 points in all 8 home games. And this year, their season opener, they're favored 5.5. It would have been their best game on the schedule last year. And it's not their best game on the schedule this year. They play, the Chiefs are the AFC favorites in Vegas, but the other 3 favorites, second, third, and fourth, in some order, I can't recall the exact order, are the Ravens, Bills, and Browns, and they play all 3 of those teams this year. So it's always more interesting, I think, in the playoffs whenever they've played that team previously. We recall the way that their Super Bowl run in 2019, they'd already played the Titans and the Texans those are the teams they played to get there. I think if the Chiefs make another run at the Super Bowl, we're going to see something similar because their schedule, they're playing all the heavy hitters in the AFC this year.
Yeah, you talk Herbie, about their fast starting nature, and that is the Chiefs have won 6 straight opening games and 7 out of 8 under Andy Reid. The only one they lost was his second season in that disaster game to the Titans where they lost 2 players to ACL injuries. Yeah. But the other one other thing that I noticed was this is the first time, so I mentioned they 5 primetime games. This is the first time since 2012 one of those primetime games won't be against the Denver Broncos. They've played the Broncos in prime time either on Sunday night, Thursday night, or Monday Night Football once a year since 2013. So every year Andy Reid's been there. Wow. You got to go back to 2012 to find the last year that the Broncos and Chiefs didn't play a primetime game. So I think there's a statement being made by the NFL that they think the Chiefs and there are other AFC West opponents that are more attractive for the Chiefs than the Denver Broncos.
Well, there's particularly one quarterback who's now more attractive. I think Herbert's the real deal. So I'm looking forward to the couple times they play the Chargers. I know where these teams finished in the AFC West last year. And, the Broncos, if they can figure out the quarterback, if Drew Lock can be that guy, they've got a good roster otherwise. But I still think that the Chargers are going to be their top competition in the AFC West. And I really should put that in air quotes because we know the competition hasn't really been there for the Chiefs under Andy Reid in the AFC West, especially over the last 5-6 years. So, I still think the Chiefs are going to win the division, but the Chargers are the divisional games I'm suddenly looking most forward to, and it's because of the quarterback they got in LA.
Larry, you mentioned the primetime games, and the one thing that really jumped out to me was because it's a curious choice, putting the New York Giants on the Monday Night Football game. They haven't made the playoffs since 2016. They're 18-46 over the last 4 seasons. This might be a snoozer. That's the game that when I looked at the primetime games, I'm like, okay, this makes sense. That makes sense. The Giants on Monday Night Football, really? So I don't know what the schedule makers were thinking there. And then, it goes back to the point you made earlier. We were all a little surprised. The Packers and the Chiefs were not primetime games, but maybe the clouds surrounding Aaron Rodgers had a lot to do with it.
Maybe.
I think that it seems like, and heck, you guys would probably be better references for this, but 10 years ago, and maybe it's a little bit longer, but the Monday night games were the games you looked for.
Mm-hmm.
And now the prime billing of those primetime games are the Sunday night games. And the Chiefs have 3 of those, and no team has more than 3. But it seems like even more so that now that late afternoon window has surpassed the Monday night game as far as prime time. And that's where we've seen this opener against the Browns and the Packers game late in the season. I mean, the Chiefs only play 7 noon kickoff games of their 17 games all year. And so even though the other ones might not be considered prime time, because I think a team can get 7. So I think maybe we thought, 5's a lot, but I thought maybe they would give the Chiefs the max because of that. But I think that they view that standalone late afternoon game. Our own Pete Gradoff always tells you which part of the country are getting the Chiefs. And every time they play at 3:25, it's basically the entire country is getting that football game. So I think the broadcast networks are coveting those spots as much as the Monday night matchups. I mean, Herbie mentioned it, that the Chiefs-Giants doesn't really excite me. And I wonder how many people it does excite. But when you look at that entire Monday night football schedule, I mean, the opener is the Ravens-Raiders. I mean, that's not really a game that excites me either. So I think that late afternoon is sort of taken precedence over Monday night.
You're right. When I look at TV ratings, obviously the primetime games are standalone, right? Sunday night, Thursday night, Sunday, and Monday night. But the windows on Sunday, the first and the second windows are viewed as, that's we get ratings for those windows as well. And when say an afternoon game, a 3:25 kickoff is just one of 2 or 3 games in that window, and that game's going to 85 or 90% of the country, then I think that's seen as valuable as a prime time game, and they can do a rating that's massive. And in that game, I believe would be on CBS. I don't know. Is that a CBS game or a Fox game? I'm not sure.
The opener?
No, the Packers game.
The Packers is a Fox game.
Fox, okay.
It is the late afternoon window.
Right.
Same with the Cowboys and Browns. I mean, those are also that late afternoon. The Steelers home game is the late afternoon window.
Those do massive ratings. They'll do massive ratings. So, and while we're on the topic of primetime games, no Broncos, but Chargers and Raiders each primetime opponents for the Chiefs this year. So, the other observation I had was I think the bye comes at a good time for the Chiefs, not just for the team, but for people for the
Chiefs riders. Yeah, the Chiefs riders.
Those who cover the Chiefs. It really is a good time because it's the Thanksgiving weekend. And I can remember this from several years ago. The Chiefs had their bye in the 5th week. It was like the first week you could take a bye, and they had just come off a loss at Pittsburgh, a big loss. May have been Andy Reid's worst loss until the Super Bowl. And it just seems stupid to have a bye after 4 regular season games. This one becomes
week 12.
Is that week 12?
Yeah.
I just think that's a good time to have one.
Especially given their first 7 games. You get the opportunity in week 12 to now go ahead and re-energize, get healthy if they have any hurt players for that all-important stretch run. So, yeah, I agree with you, Blair. Week 12 is good, and the other point I agree with Sam, it's good for the riders.
Riders with families especially, Sam. All right, guys, let's take a break, and we'll be right back. Hey, it's Blair. We have a special subscription offer for SportsBeat KC listeners, unlimited digital access to the Kansas City Star's award-winning sports coverage. Sign up now for 1 year of Sports Pass for access to all the sports news, features, and columns presented on the kansascity.com site, and it's only $30. That's a 40% savings off our regular rate. Your subscription will automatically renew after the initial term at $50 unless you tell us to cancel. Your subscription helps support the sports coverage of kansascity.com and the Kansas City Star, and that support has never been more important. Please visit kansascity.com/SportsBeatKC offer to get this special offer. And as always, thanks for listening. Back with Herbie Teope and Sam McDowell, and we've been talking Chiefs schedule. Let's switch gears. There have been some some news with the Chiefs the last few days. Let's start with news about a former Chief, Eric Fisher, signing with the Colts, a one-year deal for $9.4 million. He has been signed to protect Carson Wentz's blind side. And all I can remember here, but when I read this story, the thing that I remembered was, Brett Veach at one of the news conferences saying they thought Fisher was going to be back sooner than we thought, based on the injury that he suffered, the Achilles tendon tear in the AFC title game. But I don't know. I mean, what are the Colts getting themselves into here? Is he going to be? He's not going to be ready for the season opener, is he? I mean, that's Herbie. That's really an unrealistic expectation, I think.
Yeah, I think it's an unrealistic expectation for him to be ready for the regular season. The Colts did sign Sam Tevi, free agent tackle from the Chargers, I believe, and then so because of their other left tackle retiring. But there were some reports out there that they're expecting him to potentially be ready by October. And that's a little bit more realistic. And it also is in line with what the Chiefs were telling us. Well, not necessarily in line, because they thought he could be ready by August, which caused a lot of us to raise our eyebrows. But the October timeline is a little bit more realistic if that's what they're looking for. The key thing for him landing with the Colts, he's reuniting with Chris Ballard. And we all know Ballard was here in Kansas City from 2013 to 16. So, he was part of that group that made him the number one overall pick. So they know what he's about. They know what he can bring to the table if he's healthy.
The thing that surprised me most about the Eric Fisher thing was the money. I mean, he's getting over $9 million. I just thought he would have to sign some sort of incentive-laden contract that would be based on how many games he played. To see him get $9 million, I mean, they're paying him like they certainly expect him to be healthy this year. When you talk to people that are in this business, I mean, they expected that a guy would come back from an Achilles injury and at least be at practice before the season started and could play this year. The question is, at what level? I mean, a left tackle having that injury at his age, I mean, he's in his 30s now. That's going to be tough to repeat what he was doing pre-injury.
If they're looking at October, the timeline kind of makes sense. He starts off the season on the PUP list, and then, he gets that window where he's able to return to practice, and then he gets the medical clearance. That would put him around October timeframe. So that absolutely makes sense as well. He even if he's able to do some kind of work at training camp, but that remains to be seen.
I mean, the Chiefs doctors, you have to have confidence, looked at all of his medicals, of course, and they made this determination as well. When is he going to be ready, and at what level can he play? And he's a guy that's been in their system for so long that that if they thought he's going to return to his exact same level and he's going to be ready by, pretty early in the season, that you felt like that would have been the guy the Chiefs just would have brought back. And I think them not bringing him back tells you that what they thought of his ability to get back to where he was.
Two-time Pro Bowler. Wasn't he a Pro Bowler this past year? Wasn't he voted to the Pro Bowl? But two-time Pro Bowler in his 8 seasons. Remember, he was the overall number 1 pick in 2013. And there's one of my favorite stats. The Chiefs had over the last, 2 seasons, a phenomenal record when he plays and when he starts. And I think 27-3 maybe, and 5-4 when he doesn't, or something like that. It really is remarkable how that particular statistic. So, all right, let's switch gears and talk about. This is one of the kind of the neat things that the Chiefs do. We've seen it. They do this a handful of times over the last couple of years, and that's bring back players on a one-day contract so they can retire as Kansas City Chiefs. We saw it with Jamal Charles, Derek Johnson, Dwayne Bowe in the last few years, and we saw it this week with Tamba Hali, and had a terrific career for the Chiefs. 12 seasons. He was their first-round draft pick out of Penn State, I think in 2006.
Yep.
Ended up with 89.5 career sacks, and that ties for second all-time with the franchise. Just a good move, Herbie, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. When you think of the defenses in the mid 2000s, and then even into the early decade, from 2010 to around 2014. You thought about Derek Johnson, Eric Barron, and then the next guy always in that conversation was Tamba Hali. I think of those defenses and how this Chiefs offense right now, if they had that defense, my goodness, they probably would have won 4 straight Super Bowls. Tamba Hali, one of the heart and souls in that locker room, one of the clear leaders on the field, a phenomenal player. Off the field in the locker room, what a fantastic interview. I mean, this guy, Tamba Hali, was the kind of guy from a media point of view, after the scrum was over, would patiently, if you said, hey, I have a couple more questions, he would just patiently talk to you. And I'm going to go back to our former colleague, Torres. Torres had such a great relationship with Tamba Hali. Used to love his impersonation of Tamba's, his deep voice. But yeah, Hali was one of a kind, a great player, used to even work with other players. Don't remember, he was teaching Joey Bosa martial arts on the field and how to incorporate that with the pass rush. For a player to do that with a guy who's on a separate team, that just speaks a lot about him.
Of course, you had in his heyday, he and Justin Houston on the other side. So that was
I forgot about him.
Quite a pass rushing tandem. I'll tell you one thing I remember is when the Chiefs made him their first round pick, it wasn't very popular. He was, it was seen as a little bit of a reach, and he wasn't well known to Chiefs fans. I think he was number 20 overall, and there was actually some booing at the Chiefs gathering party that they had for the draft that year. But he turned out to be an excellent player, and he'll be in the Ring of Honor, the Hall of Fame, whatever they're calling it these days. One of these days, he'll be up there as well. And I think it's a great move by the Chiefs. Like I said, it's one of the neat things that they do, and they make a big deal out of it on their media with him signing the contract, coming on the field, sort of walking around the field for one last time. Very nice gesture by the Chiefs, and congratulations on a great career by Tamba Hali. So what's next for the Chiefs? We got some, we've got some action on the practice field coming up here really soon, don't we, Herbie?
Yeah, on Friday is the start of the 3-day rookie mini camp. So we'll be getting access all 3 days. They'll take a break after that, and then they're right smack in the OTAs. But yeah, we are at the heart of the off-season workout program where the teams, would like to see players on the field.
Yeah, and this is for the rookie minicamp. Do you think it's not just the draft class? It's or undrafted free agents. It's invited players as well. I mean, there's going to be a lot of players out there.
Yeah, the hope is you have enough to run team drills, because that remains to be seen. If that's the case, how many players are actually showing up. But, we'll get a good view of that. Sam will be out there on Friday, and then I'll take Saturday and Sunday. But we should have a good idea of how many players are out there.
Can we give a call for the Chiefs to give us a roster so that we can actually know who's out there before Friday? I mean, we've got less than 24 hours now. It'd be great to be able to take some attendance out there.
You mean with numbers and everything?
Numbers, yeah. Numbers would be incredible, yeah.
Maybe even some alma maters, too. Just the whole thing. You're getting greedy here, Sam. All right, guys. Herbie Teope, Sam McDowell, thanks for the conversation. We'll do it again soon.
Thanks, Blair.
Thanks, Blair.
That'll do it for today. Thanks to our SportsBeat KC production staff of Derek Donovan, Beth Welsh, Monty Davis, Jeff Rosen, Chris Pickett, and Savannah Smith. Tip of the cap to Herbie Teope and Sam McDowell for stopping by and talking Chiefs and the schedule. Links to their stories can be found in the show notes and on kansascity.com. Hey, we've got another deal for you. You can subscribe to Sports Pass for 99 cents a month. That's right, 99 pennies a month. Sports Pass is the online version of the Star Sports section. You get all the stories that appear in the print editions of the Star, plus many more stories that appear on the website only, and certainly all the stories appear first on the website. After 3 months, it auto-renews at $5.99 a month unless you cancel, and it's a great time to subscribe. You can read about what's going on with the Chiefs. They got rookie minicamp coming up this week, as you just heard. The Royals, the colleges, our soccer teams, much more. How do you get it? You go to kansascity.com/sportspass2020. That's kansascity.com/sportspass2020. Do you want more than just sports coverage? Check out the entire Kansas City Star product. Sports news, features, commentary, and analysis, the whole thing. You get all the stories written by my talented colleagues, plus additional national news, sports, and business coverage with the e-edition. The details for all of these deals can be found at account.kansascity.com/subscribe. And I know it's a lot of dots and dashes and addresses, but if you're having trouble hunting down any of the offers, just send me an email, bkirkhoff@kcstar.com, and I'll get you to the right place. So whether it's the Sports Pass or the full subscription, you're getting and supporting the best sports and news coverage in Kansas City and helping us produce programs like SportsBeat KC. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back on Friday with another episode.